Hey, rave reviews from our panel of Native Americans who pointed out Joe Manchin's vote goes a long way towards winning a nomination. How did the line think the Congresswoman did, and what did we learn about her plans at the Department of the Interior? Eric, this pick was a big nod to progressives, and conservative senators went after Ms. Haaland for some of her views. She parried an awful lot, doing it well, saying she was advancing Mr. Biden's agenda, not her own. Was that a good enough distinction? Did you feel a good separation there?
Yeah, look, she's been a leader on renewables and green economy stuff, and and part of the reason why so many people and so many conservation groups supported her, not to mention Native groups and many others, is because she has been bold on this dire need to transition to a non-fossil fuel based economy, right? So, but when you get up for a position like this, opponents are going to use this as an opportunity to kind of come after you. So, I think she did the best she could without compromising her core values and saying, yeah, we're going to do everything. I know I've said that we really need to make this transition a priority and make sure that all the communities will be affected are prioritized. And she didn't, flip flop or sell out. She said, look, she was clear. There was one question from, I think the ranking member where she said, you've said these outrageous things about fracking and about Green New Deal and so on. And, do your values matter or do Biden's values? And she's like, look, I work for the president. Like, my own agenda is secondary, right? But I think that sent a real signal to both people who were worried that she's going to be pushed to be much more sort of in line with the Manchins of the world. And it said, look, I'm going to take my orders from the president, obviously. And he's not anywhere near where she is in terms of being progressive on climate change. But she, the fact that she's there and she has a record of being a leader in this just climate change that we're talking about, I think she did the best she could. She did parry. I feel like there were a lot of cheap shots coming at her. I think the bottom line though is she got Manchin. I still don't know where Kristen Sinema from Arizona is. She's been sort of on the fence.
Right.
And if she doesn't get Kristen Sinema, she's going to need to get one of the Republicans. I still think that's possible. I think she has a few Republicans who aren't speaking out who will probably end up voting for her. But I think overall, I was very, very happy to hear that Manchin wasn't going to hold it up, because that would have been a real disaster for her and for the president.
And the fact that he didn't let it hang out there for 48, 72 hours. He just came straight out. That's a big difference. Hey, Merritt, a lot of deflecting from Ms. Haaland about some of her views on Keystone Pipeline, fracking, all that kind of thing. And as Eric mentioned, she didn't, walk away from any of this, but she did not either dig her heels in terribly deep either. I'm asking this in this context. Let's assume success here and she gets the nomination. All these things are not going to go away. It just seems to me it's a prism how she'll be viewed by a lot of these folks in these Western states who have a little bit of anxiety about her. What's your feeling on that?
Well, I think that was smart to not be unequivocal on the issue, because there is so much drama right now, and there is so much more to the Department of the Interior besides Stone and fracking licenses, frankly, fracking leases. And in the West, we also, we kind of need wildfire management. That's kind of a really big deal. There's a lot more that the Secretary of the Interior has to manage. And I think she also needs a clearer picture of what the president wants. So to the point of that, it is the president's policy and not her own agenda. She was smart to not go full bore on those questions. And we also, really have to see where the economy goes, where the states who are relying, I think it's Alaska, Wyoming, and New Mexico who are the most dependent on fracking,
Right.
And how the economic recovery after the pandemic goes, because I just don't think the country is going to torpedo 3 states who may already kind of be in trouble over this. We're okay for 4 years, so we could actually get through this administration with no new licenses. Keystone, I don't think anybody cares. No one in their right mind should care about Canadian oil.
That's slated for China. It wasn't even for our use, for God's sake. Right.
Yeah, I don't see that as a big deal, but the real touchstone emotional issues
Right. Yeah.
that activists are spun up on and bringing to the forefront to polarize people for whatever purpose. So I do think she handled that well, because ultimately it is the White House who is making the decision on those policies that are very touchy right now.
You know, Crystal, when you think about it, this goes, again, assuming success and she gets the nomination, and she is our Secretary of the Interior, you're talking about, I think she mentioned 90% of the employees don't work in Washington, D.C., of those 70,000. This is a really fascinating department, but I got to say, these Western senators have showed in their hand. Ranking Member Barrasso from Wyoming that Eric mentioned, Mr. Lee from Utah, Ms. Murkowski. These are very different senators when it comes to energy stuff. And I just got to think she is the point person for anything that's going to happen here, moving away from fossil fuels, almost like she's almost set up for it versus Joe Biden in a way. She's going to be the face of it, of this transition. It's going to be difficult. What's your anticipation for that?
Oh, it definitely will be difficult, but I think one of the things that I think that the media throughout this entire process forgets, that she represents the people that from the land that we stole. So I think that's kind of an important perspective to take into consideration, that she's representing the indigenous peoples. And of course, they have every right to say something about the land, especially the years of turmoil that we've put them through. Native peoples have been put through. In terms of the Western states and the local states, like, I was watching the way that she was answering a lot of the debate and the conversations, and it's pure, true communication strategy, right? Where, you say the words, "This is not my agenda. This is the president's agenda. I'm executing the president's agenda." I fully understand that. But I think one of the things that people forget in a conversation about, secretaries of interiors, et cetera, is that the reason why she's questioned so much is fascinating, because I think that people just don't know her enough on what her capabilities are in terms of management. And one of the things I also think that people don't realize, especially since we know this as New Mexicans, she actually works so much better behind the scenes than, in public speeches or whatever that might be. I always like to compare her to Senator Heinrich, that he's not as vocal as like Senator Udall. Senator Udall, on the other hand, is very like gunslinging. And as I'm watching a lot of the rhetoric that, a lot of the Western senators are saying about energy, one of the phrases that I found really fascinating that I do believe she follows is it's innovation, not elimination.
Right.
And that's a key that I think that she's going to be leading within her new department.
And that's the needle she has to thread right there, that innovation versus, because job loss is going to be a big issue for this administration as this thing goes on. We're going to have to hold it there and keep an eye on that committee for a vote, certainly.